It's called A Corpse Who Came to Dinner, and it's about a woman in Pennsylvania who did not like the elderly woman who did not like the idea of her husband being underground after he died, and then her twin sister, she had them both dug up at different times, and she kept the corpses at home. So
all right, so shall we get into this?
yeah.
Ooh, sister, I'm ready for that. I'm so excited. I'm like almost nervous to the point my palms are sweating.
Oh, that happens
like
to me all the time. When I have to shake hands with new people, I feel so sorry for the person.
Well, situationally, right? All right.
Most of the time, I feel sorry.
Right. Okay, welcome to Unscripted Turbulence. I'm your host, Raegan Medgie. Today, I got a good one. We are going downtown Chinatown. Well, I mean, we're going back in time here. We are with Beth Karas. Now, if you don't recognize the name after this pod, you're certainly going to know her, and you're going to do some deep diving like I did. So Beth Karas is true crime. I mean, you were like the beginning of true crime storytellers before true crime was really a thing.
I think you're right about that, because I joined.
She's an OG, people.
I joined Court TV on its third anniversary. All right, and I stayed there for 19 years. So I and my colleagues at Court TV laid the groundwork, laid the foundation for all of the true crime podcasters and the TV programming stuff, because we were doing trials, live trials. I covered trials around the country, high profile, low profile, for 19 years. I lived out of a suitcase. 1997 was the worst. I mean, I was on the road for 9 months out of the year. Anyway, but I loved it. Even though the formula of a trial is the same, you pick a jury, you have opening statements, you put on evidence, the defense might put on a case, closing arguments, a verdict. I never tired of that, because every story was different and the personalities were different, and the verdicts weren't always what you thought they might be, and the evidence it was just fascinating me. But I was a trial attorney before I became a journalist, right?
Yeah, so I want to get into that, because what Beth and I want to go back to how we met, so I can set the stage here, because Beth and I were at a birthday party for a good friend, her 50th.
Hey friends, sorry to interrupt. I just want to take a quick moment to thank my sponsor, Castra Elion Vodka, for allowing me to have conversations like this one and making an impact. Castra Elion Vodka is the first premium vodka made in Greece and distilled from 3 different olives. Now, if you are enjoying this conversation, please like, follow, subscribe, comment, review, and/or send it to someone you think needs to hear it. It helps more than you know. All right, let's get back to the conversation, shall we?
And Beth and I started chatting, and I have been around a lot of TV people my entire life, and I continue to be post my legacy TV days. And I just love myself some TV people, and Beth is one of them, new friend. So we started chatting back and forth, and then she tells me her story, and I thought, wait a minute. And I started populating in my head. I'm thinking, all right, because my whole thing is I'm a journalist, right? No matter what, yes, I'm a podcast host. One can argue I'm a content creator. I'm whatever the case may be, but I'm a journalist and I trained for this. So I'm talking to Beth and she tells me what she does. And I immediately was like, wait a minute. So is it just me, or do you get upset when, now I don't know if I'm going to have some haters on this, but the influencers out there who may not have a traditional background in storytelling start spouting off what they think are facts, and we started this deep dive, and that's what we're going to talk about today, among other things. And Beth was like, yeah, those are citizen journalists versus journalists. Yep. And that is how our relationship began.
But I mean, and then there are independent journalists who used to be used to work in mainstream media, legacy media kind of organization, who know the rules, who then go out on their own. So, but the citizen journalists, everybody's got a platform now. Everybody's got a podcast or YouTube page or whatever.
Yes.
And I have seen the citizen journalists, they can do good, but they also aren't always informed about the law or the facts. And I wasn't at Diddy's trial, but a girlfriend of mine was there as a producer for another network, and she said these influencers would be like, because there was I think there was an overflow a room where they could
heard about
listen.
this. My girlfriends in the news
They're
told me.
holding up their cameras, during breaks and at lunch, and they're simply summarizing what just happened. Not always accurately, but it's their take on it.
Right.
But they got followers
More
who
than
are
legacy
listening.
media people.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, who works for a local New York City media outlet, told me this. And she said, we, as the TV news reporters in the city, couldn't even get a seat. All of these influencers were there. And I think that, in addition to the Luigi Mangione trial, became a big point of contention with the mayor's office, who allows the press cards and the press passes and all of that. So I think that from what I'm hearing, the scuttlebutt is that there is going to be a bit more of a fine tuning on who can get press passes for these things, right? I mean, you can't. That's so. Before we dive in all that nitty gritty, so what is your title today? What is?
So I mean, I host a show. It streams on HBO Max, but while I'm the host of it, they call me an expert and legal analyst. So expert and legal analyst, because I appear throughout the show, not like a traditional host in the beginning, like, well, and today we're going to do a deep dive into this story, blah, 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 and then you go into the story and all the interviews. No, I'm actually a character in every one of my episodes.
Love it.
And I'm doing a little commentary. Sometimes it's simply color commentary, but a lot of times it's legal analysis too. But the show is called Curious Case of. It's a spin-off of 3 seasons I was in, about one story. 3 seasons, one story. Curious Case of Natalia Grace, which was a big hit on HBO Max, an investigation discovery about a little person from Ukraine, adopted by an American family, unloaded onto another family. That next family thought she was an adult posing as a child, and it's a whole thing. I mean, that's why it took 3 seasons to tell the whole story, because it was evolving as we were continuing to tell it. Anyway, I was doing the commentary. Like the producers would tell me stuff while we're shooting for the first time. So my reaction would be like, what did you just tell me? Or like, wait a second, what? You're blowing my mind. I mean, I'm
in real
reacting
time.
like that in real time, and that makes air, right? So they're like, okay, we're giving her a show. so I get a show, which is great. I love it. Curious Case of, but every episode is a different story, and they're all weird stories. They're not murder and mayhem. They're crime. Usually they're crime. Sometimes you're like, wait a minute, did somebody commit a crime here? I'm not sure, but it is weird. The season finale of season 2, we've already finished season 3, but we don't even have an air date yet. But the season finale, it's called A Corpse Who Came to Dinner, and it's about a woman in Pennsylvania who did not like elderly woman who did not like the idea of her husband being underground after he died, and then her twin sister, she had them both dug up at different times, and she kept the corpses at home. So that's... Anyway, she would put mothballs in her sister's abdomen, put makeup on her, glasses, a wig, and she had all her marbles. She had all her marbles. She was not charged with it. Anyway, so you ought to check it out.
Well, I mean, listen, I wanted to, right? But then I thought I'm not going to, because I wanted to have my reaction be what it is. Because, like real-time reaction, like you.
People never cease to amaze me. Sorry, drink some water.
Yeah, no. So what I just froth at the mouth, so excited about Beth, because like she's the OG, she's an original. This is a kind of journalist who I learned to be. The accolades you have, just like, it's so nerdy, I know, but like you cut your teeth. You learned it all, right? So you're from Massachusetts.
Correct.
Let's turn back the hands of time.
I'm from a little town in western Massachusetts, Deerfield.
Okay,
A little farm town. Very historic, though. Deerfield Academy, the prep school is in my town. But I was a townie. I'm from the southern part of town. Like the northern part of town, a little more hoity-toity. But, we were, in my day, drinking Genesee beer. Every guy 16 to 60 looked like ZZ Top,
My kind of girl.
But That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not totally. Not totally.
I'm here for it.
But driving in a pickup truck,
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't jobs in high school, so I worked in the cucumber fields, and we had a pickle factory in the center of town. I worked in cigar tobacco fields. I worked in tobacco. But now Yankee Candle is in my hometown.
Oh.
But it didn't. That's in my hometown. But the original one, the factory, the stores, all that. But it didn't exist when I was growing up there. It was still to come. So I didn't have the benefit of being able to work in a place like that. I had to work in the fields.
Wow.
Nobody went to camp. Nobody went to camp in the summer. Oh, no, not where I come from.
That was your camp. I mean, it was like all year round. So then you went, but you have the law background. So how did, from the fields?
Yeah, so I think since I was in high school, maybe junior high, we called it junior high, 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
We didn't call it middle school. 7th and 8th was junior high. Around maybe 8th grade, I wanted to be a lawyer. Not sure why. No lawyers in my family. And my sister became one too. And I went to college, put myself through college and law school. I went to one of the Seven Sisters, Mount Holyoke College, and took off some time. I worked in Washington for a couple of years, and then in New York for a couple of years at law firms as a paralegal, making sure I wanted to go to law school, and I did. And I did not want the big law firm experience based on my experience as a paralegal. And then my last year of law school, I got a job interning for Ed Koch's council.
Whoa.
So I worked in City Hall, and it was a summer job, but then they liked me, so they found it in the budget to keep me. I worked 30 hours a week and carried 7 courses. I was a full-time student, and so we worked out my schedule so that I had, the 30 hours, 2.5 days or 3 days to work. And then the other 2 days I was taking classes. So it was pretty busy. And then I got a job with the Manhattan DA's office, and I remember one of the mayor's advisors, he had said to me, and the mayor's council said, "You want me to make a call to Bob Morgenthau?" And we can, the budget's on my desk right now, and I can make a call. He wants his budget approved, and I said, "Oh, I don't want any help. I'm gonna get this job on my own." What was I thinking? I did get it on my own, but I mean, of course, you take all the help you can get when somebody's offering to help you get a job. But I was so naive, and I was like, "No, I don't want any help. I'm going to get this job on my own."
And who's Bob? Because I'm not familiar.
I'm sorry, Robert Morgenthau was he was the district attorney for 35 years in Manhattan. Yeah. He was a legend.
He could have helped you, but you're like, "No, I'm doing it on my own."
Correct. Oh. What was I thinking?
But I think that makes you even cooler in my perspective. Like you just were like, "No."
I mean, the word was if you were a Kennedy or the child or grandchild of a Holocaust survivor, Morgenthau would hire you. I don't know if that's true, but Bobby Kennedy Jr. had been in the office, and I did work with JFK Jr.
What was that like? I got to know.
Well, Bobby left before I started, but he had been in my trial bureau, but he left before I started.
Oh, okay.
Sonia Sotomayor was in my trial bureau too, but she left 2 years before I started. And then JFK Jr. came a couple years after. Let me think. No, he came, I started in 86. I think he came in 89.
Wow.
And he was in different places in the office, but at one point he worked in a small unit that I was in doing investigations. Elliot Spitzer was our boss. I mean, I know I'm name dropping, but it was like quite a time. It was quite a time.
Spitzer. Oh.
He was our boss, and then he left to run for Attorney General. Yeah. Oh. There was a crazy time.
Yeah, I heard that about the 80s. Oddly enough.
80s and early 90s, because I left in 94, but there was a lot of crime. I got so burnt out on street crime, I only did it for 4 years. And then, where was I going to, child abuse unit, the homicide unit, racketeering. And I went into racketeering because it was like white collar. I was so tired of
course. It gets you. Like if you don't cover the news or you're not a cop or a lawyer in your perspective, I mean, even one can say like in the medical field, you just get burned out because it's just the human interaction, the misdeeds of humans, and you see things that happen. And after a while, it gets scary because you get so desensitized by it, but then you also get burnt out. You got to walk away sometimes.
But I was in court all the time, and I was arguing with not just the defense counsel. I'd argue with the judge. Sometimes I'd have to argue with my witnesses to get to court. And then I was taking it outside. I'm at the grocery with the grocery line at D'Agostino's, and I'm arguing with the clerk over my change. I was like, oh no, this is not me. This is not who I am.
Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta change. This has gotta change. And I went to a different unit. You rise to the level of your adversary, right? I mean, I'm not a tennis player. I love the sport, but I know people say if you play against somebody who's better because you get better. So that's in the courtroom too. And so I was now dealing with a lot of retained mob lawyers, and so I knew I would become a better lawyer.
Wow.
So I did that for 4 years, but in the interim, yeah, I met the guy who started Court TV, so that whole thing happened.
Yeah, tell me about that whole thing that happened, because I remember Court TV when I was younger. I remember it.
Well, it launched in July of 1991, so I don't know how old you were in July of 91.
I am 45 years old, Sister Sledge, okay? I was born in 1980. I'm a child of the 80s. I may not have played like I was an 80s
Okay,
kid.
so you were 11 when it launched.
Yeah,
okay.
I remember it.
Okay, excellent.
And I watched 2020 with Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs. Like, I was in on it.
Okay. So, I mean, he all right. Years before that, 3 years before that, Stephen Brill, who started it, had come to Robert Morgenthau and said, I'm doing an article for this magazine I own called American Lawyer. The magazine is still out there. It's a trade journal, for judges, lawyers, for the profession. And I'm going to do it about the criminal justice system. And I'm going to talk to court officers and people at the jail and people in the Legal Aid Society, which is, that's the public defenders. And I want to know if I can come inside and observe. And so Morgenthau said, yes, you can come in and watch. And so the day he was ready to come, he asked to sit with an assistant DA who had been having lunch with the day he asked for this in the first place. But that ADA, who was in my trial bureau, was on his way on vacation, and he didn't have anything on he was about to go to Japan with his girlfriend, who he eventually marries, and he wasn't busy. So they said, well, who else around him is busy? And I just happened to be selected. I was in the complaint room writing up cases and answering ready on a 2-defendant robbery case of a couple Russian guys who were sticking up cab drivers all over town. And so they're like, let him sit with her. Let him sit with Beth Karas. And so that's what he did. He sat with me all day, and he asked me to lunch. And while I'm writing up, we had no computers in those days in the complaint room, longhand. And I looked up at him. This was like 88. And I looked up at him and I said, lunch? We don't take a lunch. There's no time to eat. And you work straight through. You do not, you were 12 to 8 or whatever the shift was, 9 to 5. I can't remember, 9 to 4. And so, well, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you have lunch tomorrow? I said, yeah, tomorrow's okay. So anyway, it turns out he wrote the whole article through my eyes. I was on the cover of the American Lawyer. And that, I had like a book offer. Orion Pictures wanted to make a movie based on my life. So it was a flash in the pan, right? But I was a DA. I was a third-year ADA at that time. I was still doing street crime.
I don't mean to interject, but I will. This is like that whole story you hear about Marilyn Monroe getting discovered when she's eating ice cream.
Yeah. So, yeah. I can send you the article. I digitized it. Anyway, it was very funny.
And can you sign it?
So,
so I can hang it on my wall.
It's a very long article. It's very long. So it apparently, there are a lot of people now. We had 500 ADAs. A lot of people who were like, why her? I was a third-year ADA, and there were more senior homicide assistants. Why her?
So mad they were.
It's like, yeah, I got an internal award from the trial bureau for grace under pressure that year because I just had to tune it out and do my work, Anyway, Steve Brill and I stayed in touch. And when he told me he was thinking about launching a network to televise trials, I thought, well, I said to him, that'll keep lawless judges in line. Because sometimes judges will do things, you don't like. Well, most judges are not lawless. But he asked me when he was getting ready to audition to be an anchor. I'd never been in front of a camera. So I went to this HBO studio or something on 23rd Street. And I remember like Fred Graham was there and Cynthia McFadden and Greg Jarrett and people who eventually came to the network. And I totally bombed. I got to know what I was doing. So, and I had no training and no prep.
So all these other people were trying out for...
Well, they were all like, Fred Graham had been on television at CBS for years. Cynthia McFadden she had worked for Fred Friendly.
Oh my gosh, she's wonderful.
And I think Greg Jarrett also had done some local news out in California, I think. So, but everybody was a lawyer. So he took me aside and he said, well, maybe you could be one of our reporters. And I was like, man, I got a lot of cases going on right now. I got a lot of eavesdropping devices out there right now in people's homes and offices and cars and all that. And I was like, I'm not leaving the office. And with that investigation midstream, it was a 3-year investigation. So I said, I gotta stick around for a little while longer. So he called me after the network launch a couple years later, and he said, are you ready now to be a reporter? And I said, I think so. I think I'm ready. So that's how I became a reporter.
He called you back. He remembered you. He was so struck by you.
Yeah, we stayed in touch. I mean, now and then we'd have lunch. Yeah.
Wow.
So that I got lucky. And I met lawyers, all over the country. And they used to say, you hit the legal lottery.
I was going to say, I can't imagine how many people watched you doing your thing. They're like, well, I want to do what she's doing. Goes into the law.
There aren't any jobs. There weren't at that time.
Not
but
at
now,
that time.
there are lots of people are consultants. There's lots there. But yeah, I was one of the early ones. Yeah.
Holy moly! So then Court TV. So how? You eventually obviously left as
they actually took it off the air. So I was actually in the middle of Jodi Arias' trial in 2013.
And remind us of that trial.
Jodi Arias was a woman who's now in prison for life, who killed her boyfriend, Travis Alexander. And in June of 2008, it was her ex-boyfriend. And she slit his throat and stuffed him in the shower stall, and he wasn't found by his roommates for 5 days because he had the master suite of the house, and the bathroom was like way off in the corner. They didn't smell that he was decomposing in the house for 5 days. Anyway, it was a big trial for trial watchers and for the true crime audience. Jodi Arias. Casey Anthony was happening at the same time, and that was the mother in Orlando.
Yes, I remember being tuned in on that case.
They were happening at the same time, but Casey's trial was first in 2011. I was at that one too, and then Jodi Arias was 2013. She kept changing her defense and lawyers and stuff, so Jodi went to trial later. But it was in the middle of that trial. I was in Phoenix. I came home. It was a long weekend. It was like President's Weekend. I remember it might have been Valentine's Day, and I got the call.
Was it about?
2013. I got the call that they said, sit down. HR was on the phone, my boss, and he said, yeah, your job's been eliminated. So they were phasing us out. And they said, but we'd like you to finish the Arias trial. And I said, yeah, I'd like to finish it. There's still 3 more months of it. So that's what happened. And then when I came back to New York, they gave me 5 days to clean out my office. And I was there for 19 years.
Oh, gosh.
And not tell anyone. I couldn't tell anyone.
I was going to say, I don't want to reopen the wound, but there have been a couple people who have been in your seat that have had this happen.
It's shocking because it was just shocking because I was like, what? I was so far removed from the practice of law. It's like, but yeah, I didn't want to leave law, which is why I went to Court TV. And now what am I going to do? I wasn't, it was such a niche job.
Yep.
I didn't feel like I had developed skills that I could just pick up and take somewhere else. I was live, doing analysis off the top of my head, no teleprompters, but also no packages. We weren't writing packages because you had the courtroom testimony all day. You didn't write summary packages. Primetime programming was different.
Yeah, and the packages, not that people don't know what that is, but that's an insider term in TV. A package is basically when you're watching a news story and you see a reporter say something like, hey, this is what happened today, and then tosses to the story. That's also called the package. And that's just what it's like sound bites
video,
and all that together.
2-3 minute video summary of the events. But we didn't do those. We didn't, not now and then, but rarely. We'd have we call it a backgrounder package. We'd set up the
Right.
story, and then maybe we'd do a package on personalities. I covered the trial of the doctor who killed Michael Jackson. So, we did a few things on like propofol, whatever. I mean, I covered Jerry Sandusky's trial. And,
I remember covering some of that too. Christ.
Scott Peterson.
Oh, OJ? Where were you with OJ? I was too young.
I covered not OJ's
cover.
murder trial. I had just started. That OJ got arrested in between my submitting my resignation letter to the DA's office and my start date at Court TV. He got arrested in between those two dates. So that was wild. I mean, I wasn't assigned to the trial. Dan Abrams and another woman named Kristen Jeanette Myers, she recently passed away, but they were the two reporters, one covering the prosecution, one covering the defense. But I covered OJ's later two trials. He had a road rage trial in 2001 in the fall in Miami, and he had his Vegas robbery. And I was at both of those trials. But early in the road rage trial in Miami, nobody was there but the locals in Court TV because it was right after 9/11, and the anthrax scare was going on. In Boca Raton, a man had just died from inhaling anthrax at American media. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
So even a lot of Florida people were up in Boca Raton. I'm in Miami at the courthouse. OJ, I'm talking to OJ like every day, right? Because he's not locked up. So early on, he had two lawyers. They invited me to lunch with OJ. So I told my bosses, I'm not doing a live shot. I gotta go to lunch with OJ. So we go to this little fast food restaurant, this Chinese restaurant near the courthouse. This is in downtown Miami. And OJ's sitting on my left. I'm at a round table. And my food came first. And OJ was hungry. And he reached over and he started eating off my plate. And I tell everybody, when O.J. Simpson is sitting next to you with a fork and a knife in his hand, you let him eat all he wants.
She went there. She went there.
Anyway, so rude. It's like, where are your table manners? But yeah, he would talk to me. He talked to me about Nicole. He talked to me about his daughter, Sydney, was turning 16 during the trial. It was crazy, crazy times.
So I never had somebody like in that situation, like OJ, ever ask me to go for a lunch and just kind of chat. Was there ever, and I mean, you're covering this, right? And I was taught in journalism school, it's okay to have conversations. Everybody has to eat. Obviously, you're not favoring. It's not favoritism.
No.
Were you afraid that somebody would think it was favoritism by going out? Or was it more
No,
just
but
getting...
I paid. I mean, I had
Right.
to pay for myself. You can't, let
Right.
them pay for you or anything. No, I don't know that anybody even knew it. I mean, we weren't hiding anything. But no, I was working the story. As far as Court TV was concerned, I was working the story. I didn't get an interview with OJ ultimately. He was acquitted of that road rage. And I remember going outside and saying, well, he just heard that word for the second time in 6 years, acquittal, but this time I understand it, or something like that. I couldn't have opinions, but it's like this time more people understand it. It was kind of a overcharged. I mean, he was angry at somebody who had been tailing him, so he stops his car and he goes and he reaches into the guy's car and grabs the glasses off his head and scratched him when he did it. But that was considered burglary of an occupied vehicle because he put part of his arm inside the window. I don't know.
Yeah.
And his kids were in the back seat of his car. They didn't testify though. So,
Jeez. All right. So going back to the point where you're getting let go. I mean, unless you had that happen, I have. I mean, who hasn't in the TV world? Oof. It's like your whole world flashes before your eyes and you're like, what am I going to do? And it's funny that and I'm glad that you brought up, like, what am I going to do? Because on the outside, people might be like, oh, well, like, there's many things you can do. But when you're on the inside in such a niche kind of thing, it's like, but you don't know. You really don't. I mean, I could write. I'm on TV. I guess I could do risk management. I don't even know how to do that.
I looked at I considered lots of things. I had almost a year with full pay because I was there so long. I had a decent severance package, so I had time to think about it.
Thank God.
And, I launched a website for a while called Karas on Crime. I did that, but it wasn't active for that long, just about a year or so, because I covered Jodi Arias' second. She had a retrial on the penalty phase, and I did that, which meant I was live blogging from the courtroom. I did videos at night. I answered questions. I got all the evidence I put up. I got the video of the trial, which was just the court video, and put it up. I mean, it was very robust, but it was too much for one person. It was just too hard to do alone, so I couldn't keep it up. But I loved just sort of being on my own. And I worked with, I think it was a Random House, on a book on Jodi Arias that Jane Velez Mitchell wrote. I was like a fact checker for them. And I worked my first month at home. I had all the police reports spread out on the floor. And I remember thinking, I am the happiest laid off person in the world because I love my books. I read a lot. And I was actually working on a book, and I just, got a little credit for it. But then Jane said, I really need your help because you know the case better than I do. And so, I did that. And, I figured it out.
Right. So it's
like I started getting picked
reinventing.
up. Different networks were picking me up to do legal analysis, a little bit of money here and there. And then 2020, Simon, I'm a contributor in 2020 now and have been for a while. It comes and goes when they use me. It's not any guaranteed number of appearances. And I'm now under contract with Investigation Discovery because under a talent deal. So it all came together.
It did. So talk about this. So is it True TV? Is it True TV that you're with? Like, what is the?
Well, True TV was the new name of Court TV.
Yes.
Court TV rebranded, and they when Court TV came back under new ownership, they bought the name and all that, and the goodwill and the library and everything. The new company, which was Scripps, but Dan Abrams' company, whoever bought Dan Law and Crime, they recently bought Court TV.
Oh,
so it's not with Scripps anymore.
Got it. Okay.
They bought it. So Court TV and Law and Crime are together now. I mean, they're one company now.
Okay.
So a lot of Court TV people got laid off again.
Oh.
But Court TV, when they resurrected under new ownership, they asked me more than once to come and be an anchor. But I'd have to move to Atlanta, and I didn't want to move to Atlanta. At one point, they were going to build me a studio in New York. I was like, you know what? The Court TV ship has sailed. I'm on to other things. Even though I could have used a good salary with benefits, that ship has sailed. I got to do other things. I can't go back to what I was doing. So.
Oh, yeah, I hear you on that one. It is interesting when you make this decision, to keep moving forward because it's easy to go back. It's like the comfort, right? It's that comforting blanket. And, when I got fresh out of TV, there was an opportunity to go back in to the locals again. But then it's like, how many times am I going to play this dance? I know how this is going to go. And it's not getting any better. I mean, have you seen what's going on? Right?
Well, they say, I learned this lesson too late, but they said if you want job security, do not go into television. So
I learned that one 45 years too late. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Okay, so now you... So now you said you do these other projects on the side with the commentating with the Curious Case of.
Yeah, well, now that's
the contract.
That's my show. Yeah, that's the ID contract, and I'm really happy there. I'm really happy with that. We finished season 3 at 6 episodes, so they're limited. It's limited. It's not like an ongoing every
almost.
Week. Yeah. But right now it's a hiatus period, so I can pick up other work. So I can't really talk about that. I'm going out to a shoot in LA the end of July.
Okay.
I can't talk about that. And then I got something else coming up in the fall but that's going to be European distribution. Because they saw me, but I can speak English. I mean, they're going to dub me, but not dub me. They're going to closed caption me.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Germany, but they liked the Natalia Gray series and had worked on some version of that in Germany. Like, I don't know if they were distributing it in Europe. And so that's how the guy saw my work. And so this producer came to me and said, we'd like you to do some analysis, and they're going to pay me. So that's for another upcoming series, but that's in Europe. And then what else let me think. I can't talk about the LA thing.
I love the fact that you can't talk about it.
You remember... Do you know the story of those 4 students at the University of Idaho who were murdered by Brian Kohlberger? So the parents of one of the students have asked me to be on the board of a foundation they just started. So I'm on the board, and it's called Murder Has a Name, and the objective, the mission of the foundation is to raise money for DNA testing in violent crimes, because police departments around the country are really backlogged. They're backlogged, and it's not just it's rape, murders. It's a lot of violent crime. Crime labs can only handle so much. Budgets are only so big. You can only hire so many people. So it really is incumbent upon those of us who care about these, issues to help. And this foundation it's already raised tens of thousands of dollars. Will be, police departments have to apply for it. There's a whole process, but we'll be distributing funds to help with backlogs.
Oh my gosh,
to help solve
Beth.
cases. So that's something that I'm staying involved with too. That's a new project.
Wow.
This is Kaylee Gonsalves's parents, one of the victims, and I met them in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. I was out there for CrimeCon, that annual conference. Like 7,500 people come together. It's like 150 speakers. Like all the people, every who's who in crime, they go there. Like there's a podcast row. The 2020 people are there, the Dateline people. I was there with the Women of Investigation Discovery. We had a panel discussion. But mine was opposite. John Quinones is doing a discussion on the yogurt shop murders, which is a big, I think it's a Netflix or Hulu, big Hulu series right now. So there are Nancy Grace is there. There are multiple things happening at once, and it's this was in Caesar's Palace, and it's like 3 days. So
how often does this?
It's once a year. Although they're doing a cruise, they do a cruise in the fall. It's all crime on the, but I haven't been on the cruise. Anyway, I spend my time in the exhibition hall because there are people with like missing loved ones, and they put up a booth, and they're trying to raise awareness and get somebody to do the story. So I go and I talk to these people about stories. And then there's another table I always visit of a couple that has all these self-defense like devices for women. I bought a necklace, which is a whistle, but they have, like the knuckles and things. They got this bracelet thing that you hit hard enough, you can break a window. Like you say, you're inside a car and you need to break out because somebody's kidnapping you. There's all kinds of things. Anyway, so there's that table. And then, different networks and podcasters have their own exhibitions as well. And then, like, a literary agent, I love her. She sells these T-shirts. I bought one. I almost wore it, and I thought I better not be cute. But it's it says vans are creepy. It's a drawing of a van because vans are creepy. And
now we're talking just vans, not news vans. Although one can argue.
They are shaped like a news van, but you never park next to a van in a dark parking lot because that's where they open the side door and snatch you. That's how people get snatched. That's a very, very common kidnapping ploy. So anyway, vans are creepy. So I buy things like that and the T-shirts to support.
How long has this CrimeCon been going on?
I've only been to 4. It's been going, and they didn't have it during the pandemic, but I think I was at the very first one in 2016. I went to the first and third. I think I only go if I'm invited to speak. I don't go because it's expensive.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear you on that one. I'm waiting for my invite to things. these conferences, very expensive.
They are.
Just to go and show up.
And then there are levels of tickets you can buy for CrimeCon.
I did that with the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters. I was invited, and then that was great. But then it was like, if you want to go and do, see this lecture, you have to pay this level. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Forget that.
You can be a VIP attendee because most of the attendees are just crime aficionados. They watch all the programming.
Right.
It skews female, but not exclusively. And so VIPs get a meet and greet. Like I had people sign up for a meet and greet with me, and they get 5 minutes with me. And so we sit in this little area and we talk and take pictures. And
I get an hour today. And more. I get that, and I don't have to pay anything. Okay, so. The next, speaking of the CrimeCon, you see all these people lining up, and then the podcast row, and all these, the enthusiasts and the ones who want to maybe have their own podcast or want to speak openly. We talked about this at the birthday party about the civilian journalist versus journalist, and I have a couple of friends who sometimes will send me a clip of some kind of crime pod or some kind of news clip. And it's a news influencer talking about something that's happening in New York. And because I'm connected on the inside with TV people, it doesn't always translate. It's like not always the full story. And I know we talked about this. What are your thoughts? Because listen, like as journalists, we go to school, we know the law and ethics of how to do it. Not to say that civilian journalists are terrible.
Citizen journalists. I call them citizens. Citizen, civilian, same thing. I guess same thing.
So your thoughts on sifting through all the noise, I guess, in a way.
As I said when we first started talking, it doesn't apply to anyone who's actually been in a newsroom and had the training, right? Whether it's a newspaper or, podcast, television, right? They kind of get it.
Right.
That, editorially, like what you can or can't do. Or you should at least have a legal review of what you're doing, all right? I mean, I don't know if you do, but you probably don't need to. But I need
sometimes,
to when
depending upon what it is, yes. If it's, in my podcast world, I don't because I don't need a legal review of much other than contracts that I have. When I had you sign the guest release form. But like beyond that, no, content-wise, no. But there had been points in my journalism career where it's a very legal heavy thing. Yes. And I sometimes call a lawyer. I'm like, can you help me with this? Like I don't want to misspeak. I want to make sure I'm saying this legally and accurately.
So let me start with this anecdote from way back before there was social media the way we know it today. It was 2007. I'm sitting in a courtroom in Los Angeles at the trial of this music producer named Phil Spector. And I'm hanging out with Dominic Dunn. Do you know who he is? He was a crime writer. But anyway, that's another story for another time. And he became a writer after his daughter was murdered by her boyfriend, domestic violence. He went to the trial. Tina Brown had just become editor of Vanity Fair, and she met him at a party and said, why don't you write about the trial? Like, write it for Vanity Fair. And then Dominic Dunn's Diaries in Vanity Fair, which was like in the center of the magazine for years, started with the trial of the man who killed his daughter. She was brain dead, and they took her off life support after 5. Griffin Dunn was her brother. Griffin Dunn, who's a director and actor, and he came out with a book last year, Friday Night Club, based on the family. And I texted Griffin. I said, I recognize a lot of the stories because your father told me a lot of the stories you said in the book. But anyway, it was awful. And anyway, so I was covering that trial with Dominic, and we were hanging out a lot. And this blogger was there, and she'd sit behind Dominic, and she was a citizen, no training, but interested in the law, and she did a decent job because she would just kind of write everything that's happening in the courtroom, and she did a pretty good job. She had a pretty good amount of followers, but she was a blogger. We call them blogs, right? They were blogs, and nobody was doing like YouTube stuff at that time. So she heard a rumor about a famous forensic pathologist who was testifying at the trial, and it was something to do with like something bad, like something unethical, sex abuse, something like that. And she puts it in her blog, and she gets a cease and desist letter from a big law firm in LA saying, we're about to sue you, take that down immediately because that's not true. It was defamatory. And she didn't have anyone to tell her, you can't do that. You cannot print a rumor. You have no proof of this. Who told you this? Where'd it come from? And so she called me, and I said, take that down immediately. I said, yeah, you're going to get sued. So she did and did not get sued. Then I did a little bit of research, and I learned that bloggers around the country were getting sued for defamation because they did not know better, and they were just putting anything out there, and they were losing their shirts. There were big judgments against them. So now fast forward to today. I mean, I know it has. I know what happened in the Koberger case. I know there was an influencer who's like a psychic down in Texas, this woman, who insisted that this professor at the University of Idaho had something to do with the murder of those 4 students. And even though it wasn't true and was proven not true, and the professor was not even in Moscow, Idaho on the day of the murders, this woman in Texas would not stop. She got sued, and I think she defaulted, because if you don't show up, you don't answer within 30 days or something, it's like a default judgment. Yeah. She defaulted. I mean, I don't know how big the judgment is against her, but it does still happen. I mean, people are still being, I don't know if the rules are any looser. The rules have been, I know that some people want to tighten the rules for online information to make like the website owner more responsible for commentary. Because right now, if somebody comments and says something defamatory or bad, the owner of the site isn't responsible.
Right.
Isn't that Section 230 or whatever of the law? But that's what there's this big debate about whether it should be repealed and make people a little more responsible. But it would be too onerous. If you run a website, you'd have to turn your comments off because you can't monitor everything.
No.
Have somebody hired to monitor all the comments. So anyway, it's a big thing, and I feel like people should have some basic knowledge. If you're just putting it out there into the world, you should have some basic understanding of the do's and don'ts.
I agree. And that's part of where, like, it's so muddy because for that situation, like the psychic, it's almost like adding fuel to other people's fires. Well, then if she's going to say that, I know, with no basis, but I know. How do you know? Where are the facts? No, I know. And then it becomes this like conspiracy war. And then the facts don't even matter because the conspiracy is getting all the attention. And everyone's talking about that when that's the furthest from the truth. Now, there have been situations, I can't cite any of them, but I do remember reading some situations where, not the conspiracies, but the non-traditional, like, what is it, civilian journalists will maybe bring up something like the sleuths. Yeah, citizen. So, they'll maybe see something that maybe the non-traditional media didn't, or maybe law. Like that does happen.
It's good. Yeah,
that's great.
There are good contributions. There can be contributions, good contributions.
Yes, but not everybody can contribute like that. And don't try to contribute where you really just be careful because I just feel it's making a journalist's job harder because we do follow the rules. Yep. There are things you have to do. And I know that there's a big, bashing about journalists lie and we don't tell the truth and all that kind of stuff. But it's not we need to vet information because there are human lives involved. It's not that we're trying to hide because I've been accused of it. Oh, you're not saying the truth. No. I hear what you're saying, but I need to vet it. I can't just say yes or no.
You can't just repeat it. You can't. Right.
So when somebody's, into this true crime, are there any that, and you don't have to name names unless you really feel you need to, but how do you vet the good ones versus the ones that are not good? There's always up and coming. How, in your viewpoint, because you know what you're talking about, Beth, I trust. So,
look, when it comes to being a journalist, and you know this, our reputation is everything.
Oh,
right?
my God.
Your
One wrong move, it's over.
You can't, right. And if you give somebody, your word that something's off the record, it stays off the record.
Yep.
You can't, you have to have people trust you.
Yeah.
And so my induction into journalism was, like I mentioned earlier, it was a real niche. It wasn't the traditional way. I was handed a case on a platter with documents, and I just had to analyze the courtroom. So I wasn't working eventually I would learn to start working sources and just telling a little bit of a backstory, but I was mainly in a courtroom. So it was a little bit different. But when I left, and I would never report rumors, when I left and started, and everything exploded with true crime programming and podcasting, and I would start to listen to a podcast. If I heard a factual error in a story that I knew, this has happened on television too, and it happened in the Scott Peterson story, they've lost credibility because they were factually wrong. And the same thing if they're saying something about the law and they don't understand or they explain it wrong, they've lost credibility with me. And that has happened with podcasters who don't understand the law or they're not representing the facts correctly. So how do you vet? I look at the background of the person.
Right. Okay.
Mainly, or then I'll listen to something. But I don't have a lot of time to watch. I listen more because I listen while, in a car or walking or, doing errands and stuff. When I'm home, I'm usually working away, writing or whatever. But I think you just have to check the background of the person. Don't necessarily go by ratings either, because the listeners or viewers may not know any better. When I was on that panel in Vegas a few weeks ago, I actually mentioned that. I said, look, to the audience, they're not all created equally. We're not all created equally, and citizen journalists are not all created equally, and they're not always right about the facts or the law. And as soon as I hear something that's wrong, I'm out. I'm done. So I don't know how I didn't really tell them how to vet that, but I just said, be careful,
Did anybody?
No, but I said, look, if it comes out of my mouth, you can trust it. And they clapped.
I mean, you have how many years of experience in
the law? 40. So 40 years altogether in the law and journalism. 8 at the DA's office, and the balance in journalism. Oh my.
No, you're not. Listen, I just wish that there were more of you, or I guess people in this world of spitting out facts and gathering information, that there was more awareness and more want to be true journalists, or if you're going to speak of the law, like those kinds of things. I just feel like you need to know a little bit more than just plugging in a microphone and be like, hey, or being in the Luigi Mangione trial and just.
Oh, I'm aware of what's happening there.
Wow.
There are some women. Have you read about these people who got credentials from the mayor's office?
That's what I'm talking about. The whole, and I was in the thing, this is crazy. I'm just thinking about this now. So when I was on my exit plan from WABC, and I knew I was not going to stay, I started thinking, well, you know what? My press pass is expiring, right? And I thought, maybe I should renew it, because once a journalist, always a journalist. God forbid something big happens and I need to go live for, I don't care what organization, but they need somebody to spit facts or whatever. Right. Well, I didn't. And I tried, but I tried, right? When I was still under the umbrella of WABC, I tried. And they gave me a problem.
The mayor's office
gave me an issue. There was a guy that it was within the press pass credential. It was media. It's not even like, it's called the media and film something. I don't. It's like
MOME.
Yes. And I was talking to somebody there, and they denied me. They wouldn't give me my press pass, like, to renew it. You have to
these women. I mean, I probably shouldn't say anything, but what I've heard about these 3 people who've been making a little bit of news, with their passes. I mean, they all kind of think that Luigi's going to marry them, apparently, but
he's not marrying you.
But like one of their applications was a little bit problematic, and she actually got a call from the mayor's office. Is there anything else you can give us? Like, they're actually helping her. But these are the kinds of people who helped elect him. I mean, this profile,
Yes.
influencer types, they helped elect him. Mm-hmm. So,
and then you got somebody who's gone to journalism school, has more than 20 years experience in the field, and I couldn't get one. I'm going to attempt again, because I don't take first.
With his office. The New York Press Club has raised that with his office and had a meeting, and I don't know what else is going on, but there's.
Well, good. So New York Press Club, I know we're about to run out of time. Darn it! But so New York Press Club, why did you bring that up? What are you of the New York Press Club?
Yeah, I've been on the board for years, but I have to scale back some of my volunteer work because I'm going to do different things. But I'm not part of the advocacy and the group on this end, but they have reached out to the mayor's office. The issues, they said that they're not going to take away the passes from the women who have been issued the passes, but apparently they're looking over the protocol or whatever. I don't know. I'm not involved.
Getting a press pass isn't something that you get like, oh, everybody gets a trophy. No, you have to earn that. You don't just willy-nilly hand them out.
right?
Ooh,
You have
Medgie
to
is
show
getting
stories
mad.
that you've done. You have to show stories in a certain period of time.
But
and
even that, like here, the period of time, okay. But so my work, so here's my challenge. My work, 5 years ago when I was at Fox 5 doesn't count, or my work 10 years ago at the Weather Channel, which was based here in New York City, doesn't count. You know, like.
It's ridiculous. The mayor, I used to get a restricted press pass when I needed it. Because
Right.
when I was at Court TV, I was rarely in New York.
Right, because that's what you
Rarely,
need for
'cause we
in
don't
New
have
York,
cameras,
press
but
pass, behind the lines.
It would
here,
be
yeah.
restricted. Yeah, I couldn't cross the police lines.
Yeah.
It was a different color.
Yeah.
I had that a couple of times. They lasted a couple of years, but I really didn't need one in New York. But I thought, well, why don't they at least just give restricted passes to somebody? So why are they getting these? Anyway, I don't know.
I know how we really went on a hard left on that one. I'm okay with it though, because I'm impassioned. I'm impassioned about being a journalist. It's our life's work.
Reapply.
I'm going to reapply, and I will follow up with you, and I will tell you what happened.
Yeah, you should reapply.
I am gonna.
And yeah,
this is my promise to you and to all of you out there listening, watching. All right. Well, this was.
Are we finished?
I mean, I have to like wrap up. I could keep talking to you because I would love to know.
Did we cover everything?
I mean,
we
is there
covered a lot.
Anything, last words, anything you want to say, we have a couple minutes. Any like trial or something, true crimey, not true, whatever that really impacted you, has stuck with you to this day. Any decision you made that really you feel like you want to pass on the information or the lessons you learned.
So one thing that's become a passion now is advocating for women and raising awareness on issues affecting women when it comes to domestic violence and risks of death at the hands of intimate partners. And I co-chaired and hosted a conference a couple months ago called Trauma-Informed Journalism, and it was about teaching journalists how to respect, cover trauma, but respect the victim and not re-traumatize them. We had an Epstein survivor, a Weinstein survivor, the woman who blew the whistle on Matt Lauer, human trafficking victims, a judge from a human trafficking court. It was an amazing day. And the next one is next year, April 3rd. You should come.
I'll be there.
A lot of networking. And so this is sort of protecting women. People are coming at me from different angles regarding victims, women in particular. And so this is becoming a passion for me, just helping to raise awareness, because violence against women isn't really getting any better.
Well, I am glad that you're a steward to help change, right? And you're getting involved.
Didn't mean to end on a low note, because you're such an upbeat, happy person, but you asked, so.
Yeah, no, it's not a low. It's a fact, right?
Yeah.
And it's people like you that can create change, And if more people get on board with something like this, because it is an issue. I don't know it as deep as you do, but I think it's interesting that you're getting these signs and people are coming to you. And this is like another chapter for you.
Yep.
And I'm glad that you ended with that, because you never know who else is going to sit in that seat. And I'll be a better and more informed person should that topic come up.
Well, we'll do it again.
I would absolutely love that. And I want to come to that conference.
April 3rd, but let's get together before then.
Of course, obviously.
And Carl says hi.
Oh, Carl Leibowitz. So here's a little fun fact here. So as Beth and I are getting to know each other, we have a mutual friend, Carl Leibowitz. Shout out. He's got a podcast too.
Yep. Conversation with Carl.
Oh, he is wonderful. And he and I worked at the Weather Channel together, and he was my producer. And then we find out that he was your producer prior to me.
He was my producer at Court TV before he was your producer.
Yes.
And he's the business manager of the press club. Very incestuous here.
Isn't it? It always is. All right. Well, thank you, Beth, so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
by, spending this time with me. You're just a true legend in my eyes, and I am just so grateful that I got to know you.
Thank you.
Oh.
You called me OG. I had to look that up.
It's okay. I'm not far off from that because there's certain acronyms I'm like, I have no idea what any of that is. Like IRL in real life. Yeah. Okay, we'll wave to the camera.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
friends. Thanks
bye.
for stopping by. We'll see you later.